Well, it is my great pleasure today to be with Katie Stidolph, who I met a number of years ago now at the second Newcastle Startup Week, and ever since then we've been talking philosophy together. And Katie has got a handle, which is the Savvy Stoic, which is absolutely fantastic. It's a brand now, and she's an in-demand speaker as well, aren't you, Katie? Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, I'm starting to do more.
Yeah, fantastic on philosophy. And what we're going to try and do today, as many of you know, is that I came up with this philosophy called happypreneurship, if you like, based on about 10 values. But a lot of them are based on philosophy, really. And it is a philosophy. And there is no better person to explore with me how practical day-to-day philosophy can help business owners and all enterprising people survive and thrive and be fulfilled and be happy in various things. So, Katie, my kind of first question for you is, a lot of people think philosophy is a very dry subject and it doesn't have any practicals, but I noticed that you called Stoicism and the Stoics, you called it a beautiful philosophy. Why do you think that? Because you're very enamored by it, but you use it day to day, don't you?
Yeah, so I think it's a beautiful philosophy because it can help you with so many things in life, and that's speaking from personal experience. So whether it's in your own business, whether it's in university, or whether it's just in personal day-to-day life, it's helped me so much. And I think that's why I call it a beautiful philosophy, because it's really resonated with me. And in terms of day-to-day, you mentioned a lot of people consider philosophy to be quite dry, and I think that's a very true statement, especially when you consider philosophy as solely a theoretical pursuit. And Stoicism, which is my philosophy of choice, and I'll tell you a little bit more about what it is in a few moments, is the most practical philosophy out there. So you can apply these teachings to your day-to-day life. You don't just have to sit back in an armchair and read a book like you would consider a philosopher. It's not just a theoretical pursuit. There is theory to go alongside it, because it's a philosophy, of course, but it's a philosophy to be lived and to be learned and to be practiced in all areas of life. So I think it's just beautiful, because it doesn't matter whether you've got a philosophical background, whether you're a student of philosophy, you can take little bits of Stoicism and apply them to your life regardless of your knowledge in the subject. So it's just an all-around gorgeous philosophy for me. So I hope that answers your question.
That's great. And I think the other interesting thing is that I've been all over the place with lots of different philosophies, obviously, and I'm really pleased that I studied it for 50 years now. But the other thing I think is that Stoicism is so accessible because the writers about Stoicism were using it in their day-to-day lives, weren't they? So Marcus Aurelius and Seneca and all these are all real people. I mean, the last great emperor of Rome used it every day, didn't he?
I think that's why it's so amazing as well, because the diversity of those people. You have the three great Roman Stoics were Marcus Aurelius, Epictetus, and Seneca. So Seneca was a Roman playwright. He was also tutor to the deranged Emperor Nero, if you want to call him. And then Marcus Aurelius, the last good emperor of Rome, obviously he was a practicing Stoic. I have his book here, which I highly recommend, Meditations. It's absolutely amazing. And that's his way of practicing Stoicism, dealing with it. It's a journal, but it's really a spiritual exercise for him. And then you have Epictetus, who was a slave. So all of them different people lived as Stoics and took the teachings and applied them to your life. So it's such a diverse philosophy. It doesn't matter what background you're from, where you are in life, you can use it to help you live a happy, fulfilling life.
Yeah, fantastic. And when I really went back to Stoicism, it was because of the psychologists that I've mentioned before, and we've talked about, called Albert Ellis, who was rated by his peers as the second most influential psychologist ever. I think Jung was first and Freud was third, and he was second by his peers. And of course, he actually developed his behavior therapy, if you like, getting people to take practical actions to deal with mental health problems, depression, various things, by using Stoic philosophy.
So that's Albert Ellis is the one that created CBT, wasn't it? That was Albert Ellis,
yes, spot on. And he did it himself. He learned to use this himself, the Stoic philosophy, to increase his own confidence, if you like, and his own presence and his own fulfillment. And you've got a wonderful way about living and life and various things, which is absolutely fantastic. Could you just sort of like say day to day what kind of things that you take from the Stoics, if you like?
Yeah, sure. So firstly, the Stoics are all about optimizing your time, living a fulfilling life, really recognizing your purpose. So Marcus Aurelius talks a lot about, obviously he journals, but how you should really think about how you spend your day. So does Seneca. So I start my day, really, the Stoics have given me a morning routine that I stick to, and it doesn't matter what's going on, whether I'm away at an event and I'm in a hotel room, regardless of what it is, this is my morning routine. And I'd say I take that from the Stoics. Seneca says life without design is erratic, so it's just crazy and basically you're going to waste your time. So I start my day in a very Stoic way with this book, which is the Daily Stoic, and it's a page-a-day book. So every day it has a quote from one of the three great Stoics. It sometimes has other Stoics that are less known, but it's a Stoic quote. And then it has commentary alongside that. So you start the day reading it, contemplating on the passage. Then I have the Daily Stoic journal. So then I journal, and this has a prompt, a question that goes hand in hand with the page that I just read. Then I meditate for 20 minutes normally. Sometimes it's a little bit shorter depending on where I am or how much time I've got. And then I can't see, but this whole room is filled with Stoic prints. I mean, you can see one there, which is good.
Really. Yeah.
And then I have this on my desk, which I'm going to talk about. So it's a crossbow, a skeleton holding a crossbow, and it looks at us in eye level. And I contemplate my mortality, which is one of the things that the Stoics talk about. So there's a Stoic concept called memento mori, and it's a Latin phrase, and it basically means remember death, remember you will die. And that helps me. This is how I apply Stoic philosophy to my life. It helps us to remember that this might be my last day. So by doing so, it allows us to really think about, okay, what work do I want to do today? What do I want to achieve in life? Because tomorrow's not a given. So there's no point in us wasting the day. And I'd like to say that I'm always like that, but sometimes I wake up a bit more grumpy. I'm not like this perfect person, but I try my very best, and that's really how I start the day. So the morning is always them three things. It's a must, and then obviously contemplating of some type. Sometimes it's memento mori, but there's also another really good Stoic exercise that I think is really, really useful for business owners, but also anyone, but especially if you run your own business and stuff. So there's a coin here. I don't think.
Yeah, lovely, fabulous.
It says premeditatio malorum, and that's a Latin phrase again, and it's the premeditation of evils. So another contemplative exercise, and in this one, what you do is have you heard of positive visualization?
Yes, absolutely.
So this is like, it's going to sound a bit weird, but this is negative visualization. So what you do is you basically stop and think about all the things that could go wrong that day. Maybe like I'm doing this talk with you, so I could have stopped and thought this morning, maybe my laptop's going to die. It's not because it's plugged in, but maybe my laptop's going to die. It's going to crash. The internet's going to go wrong. I don't know, just kind of really think about all the things that could go wrong. The other part of it is to think about the things that you could be like taken away from you in your life. So that could be people you love. It could be, I don't know, just your house, whatever, your reputation, your job. And by doing so, it helps you to not be thrown off course so much if these things do happen. So if I've thought about, oh, this interview might crash or something might go wrong, if that does happen, I'm not like took by surprise straight away, because I've already kind of thought about that. So this comes to us from Seneca. And I have a quote here, and it says, rehearse them in your mind: exile, torture, war, shipwreck, all human possibilities should be before our eyes. So by doing so, it allows you to, like I said, not be taken off course, but also if you think about something that's really far ahead, maybe you could put a plan in place, maybe you could kind of not allow that situation to hurt you so much or whatever. And the chance of it happening isn't always the case. What you think about might never ever happen, which if you think about something negative, that's good. But it's just a really, really useful exercise. So that's how I start my day. And then I have one of the exercises that I kind of think about. And obviously throughout the day, I carry this coin and then one of the other coins, but this is, so for anyone who doesn't know what Stoicism is, I should probably quickly say that. So we're talking about uppercase Stoicism and not lowercase Stoicism. So lowercase Stoicism is just when someone endures pain, they don't complain. But uppercase Stoicism is a whole entire school of philosophy, an ancient school of philosophy. It's a Hellenistic philosophy from the 3rd century BCE, and it's really founded on rational thought. And there's 4 virtues that are fundamental to the philosophy. So that's courage, justice, wisdom, and temperance. And every situation in life is an opportunity as a Stoic to practice either one or all 4 of these virtues. So as I'm going through my day, I'm carrying this coin around and I'm remembering, okay, so what virtue do I need to bring to the table right now? What does this situation require of me as a Stoic? And sometimes I fall short. Sometimes I'm not good at bringing the right virtue. But on the back of my coin, it says the 4 virtues. And then it has, try not to exchange them for others. And that's a quote from Marcus Aurelius. So I just try my very hardest.
Just say the 4 virtues again, because I think that it's really important that, if people can actually remember them now, it will really help them. So just say them again.
So you have courage, the courage to do the right thing, to stand up for what matters. Then you have temperance, which is self-discipline, moderation. Then you have justice, so kindness, treating people fairly, doing the just moral thing. Then you have wisdom. So wisdom's really important. All of them are important, all interlinked. And the Stoics created quite a detailed taxonomy of virtue. They also did it with vice, but virtue for the Stoics, so them 4 virtues, wisdom, courage, temperance, and justice, are fundamental to the philosophy. They are, if you just remember that, and that every situation is an opportunity to practice it, you are on a good course of Stoicism. And the goal of life for the Stoics is to live in accordance with nature. When I say nature, I mean the universe as a whole, so what happens to you. And also the Stoics believe that we are rational creatures, so our nature as human beings is to be rational as best we can in all situations. Aristotle, another ancient philosopher who wasn't a Stoic, but he was around before Stoicism, talks about how the thing that distinguishes us from other animals in the animal kingdom is the fact that we are rational beings. We can stop, we can think, we can rationalize about a situation. So for the Stoics, virtue and being rational were really, really important.
Yeah. Okay. And and that reminds me as well why Albert Ellis was such an unpopular psychologist in the profession. Because instead of getting lots of money from counseling sessions, he told them to go away and practice these things. So basically, his probably his best-selling book was How to Be Never Ever Miserable in Your Life Ever. Yeah,
I'm gonna have to listen to that.
And of course, that's basically done by actually thinking of what could be taken away from you, what's negative, and it's actually practicing those things before it actually happens.
Yeah.
And of course, what happens is if you actually practice your reaction to those things, then you're not going to be flattened by them when they actually happen to you. And of course, the solidity of having some virtues is like your inner strength, isn't it? Every day, and it's because the universe is stuff happening to it. I mean, I also like Camus and absurdist kind of thing. And, the world is, we can't control the world, because the world is just happening, kind of thing, and nature is just happening. But what we can control are our own thoughts and actions. And if those are the only things that we can control, then we've just got to have something that we actually believe in is right for us, and that's the beauty of the. And I think I love the concept of justice and wisdom, because I actually think, well, anyway, I mean, for me, once you've decided that there is a virtue in justice and in wisdom, actually, not believing slogans, does that make sense? Not believing all the babble kind of thing, but actually gaining some rational wisdom. You've got it increases your ability every single day to get through that day, and when you get a bit down, to get back up again, kind of thing, because you've got a purpose. Yeah,
exactly. You've
got a purpose that's carrying you forward. So you're not asking for the government to do anything for you. You're not asking for your parents to do anything for you. You're not asking for your friends to do anything for you, even. Yeah, you're actually just saying, I can only control my own thoughts and actions, and I have this kind of like inner code and inner strength from the things that I want to do, and that's how you get.
Exactly what you've just said. You only control what you do, what you think. There's a fundamental Stoic tenet, and that's, I've got a quote over here. I'm not being rude. I just have a second screen. So there's a core Stoic doctrine, and you would have heard of it. It's called the Dichotomy of Control, and this comes to us from Epictetus. And when I say it comes to us from Epictetus was like Socrates in a sense, where he didn't write anything down. So really it comes to us from his pupil Arian, but it is Epictetus's teachings. So the Dichotomy of Control tells you to separate what you do control from what you do not control. Right. So I've got two quotes here, and this is, if you can just apply this to your life, again with the virtues, makes such a difference. So the chief task in life is simply this: to identify and separate matters so that I can say clearly to myself which are externals not under my control and which have to do with the choices I actually control. So in every situation in life, if you ask yourself, do I have any control over this? You don't have control what the government does. You don't have control I don't have control what my university does. The only thing I control is how I react to what other people do, which is fundamental, because if you start recognizing that, you have this hidden power within you, because you can then say, okay, if I have no control over that, I'm not going to give it my time, not going to give it my energy, and I'm just going to focus on what really matters to me. So there's another quote by Epictetus which goes alongside this, and it says, there are things which are within our power, and there are things which are beyond our power. Within our power are opinion, aim, desire, aversion, and in one word, whatever affairs are our own. Beyond our power are body, property, reputation, office, and in one word, whatever are not property, our own affairs, whatever are not properly our own affairs. So that tells you what we do control, which is only really our opinions, desires, aim, aversion, whether we decide to go away from something, or in one word, our own affairs. So if you just focus on that small circle of control, you are going to have a life that is a lot more calm. Your peace of mind's going to be less hindered, because you're not given your energy and time to things that really don't matter. And the Stoics classified things into preferred and non-preferred indifference. So when he says your body, power, reputation, stuff like that, obviously we don't control them.
Mm-hmm.
But for a Stoics, so back to virtue for a second, the only good thing in life is virtue for a Stoic, the only true good. And it's that way for a few reasons, but mainly because virtue can never be bad. Like, it's impossible. Virtue could not be bad. But money, if you want to take money, for example, someone could use it for good and someone could use it for bad. So what really matters then is the character of the person who is using the money. Yeah. So if they're a virtuous person, then that's great. And Stoicism is all about building a good character, being virtuous. So for the Stoics, the only true good is virtue. And then that allows you to not get so bothered about material goods, wealth, and whatever else you want to think about that's external to you. Only focus on the internal things in your circle of control, and then you're going to have a much better life. So that's the Dichotomy of Control is a great place to start with Stoicism, because you can just ask yourself that question: is this in my control? And if it's not, then don't get bothered about it as best you can. Obviously, it's easier said than done, but it's a really good starting point for people who want to get into Stoicism.
I absolutely love that. I want to ask you, I suppose, a really difficult question in terms of the fact that we haven't mentioned Albert Ellis, but we've had 2 years of the pandemic and various things. Now we've got a war and various things, and of course, those are all uncontrollables. They're all things that are actually happening to us. I've got to be honest and say that the 2 years for me have been absolutely fantastic. I've actually loved my life during those 2 years. But my campaigning for Excluded UK and other things, and just the number of people that I'm interviewing at the moment that are talking about mental health. The mental health pandemic we've got in the UK at the moment. So I just want to ask you, how do you think that, we're not psychologists, but how do you think philosophy can help you when you're feeling sad, lethargic, down, those kind of things, because you feel, under the pressure of all these things around you? How do you think?
Sure.
Can help.
So in terms of Stoicism helping me with feeling down and I guess laziness and lethargic and feeling a bit unproductive, I've definitely been there, especially through the pandemic. I was kind of glad I had university because it was something to anchor myself in. I still had somewhat of a routine, but it was obviously all from home. So then the motivation was all about me. Do I get up? Do I read this? Do I do my lectures? And I found it, I'm not going to lie, I found it a bit tough to get sort of the ball rolling and get there. But Stoicism, again, going back to the Dichotomy of Control, helped us to be like, okay, well, what do I focus on? What do I do here? But in terms of feeling down, it's different for everyone, but Stoicism's just allowed us to sort of be a bit kinder to myself. I don't know if that's a good thing, but there's a quote here, and it says, where's it gone? I've got a quote from Seneca somewhere, and it's do you know what progress is? This is paraphrasing because I don't know where I've put it, but I've began to be a better friend to myself. And that's what Stoicism's allowed me to do. It's allowed us to just accept the days when I don't feel wonderful, things aren't going to plan, and kind of I cannot change it. So if I know I need to put my foot off the gas and be a little bit nicer to myself and be like, okay, today is a self-care day. That's what I need. So Stoicism and philosophy is just heightened my awareness, and I think by having more of a heightened awareness, it's allowed us to really be in tune with how I feel. So Stoicism's helped me so much with anxiety. I still have bouts of terrible anxiety, but I used to be really, really bad. And Stoicism allowed us to build a healthy relationship with that anxiety, and you can do that with, obviously I'm not a psychologist, which we just said, but I think depression and other mental health issues, I suppose, it can help you to reframe how you think about that. Because I think when you're in a bad place, it can be so easy to think you're never going to get out of that place, or maybe beat yourself up because you think, oh, well, I'm not performing like other people, or I'm really not feeling up to it today when I know I have all these things to do. So just by having Stoicism for me and being more aware and having this purpose, which my purpose really, Stoicism has given me a purpose, and that is just to live my best life and be the best person that I can possibly be and build the best character. That's it. It's no longer to get a good, obviously I want to get a good job, but when I was in school, I was like, right, I want a good job. I want an expensive like salary, and I want a massive house, all these things. And as the years have gone on, I've slowly started to kind of chuck them thoughts out. It would be nice to have all them things, but I don't need it to live a happy and good life. So Stoicism, just going back to sort of feeling down, lazy, and whatever it may be, has just helped us to accept however I feel in that moment. It's fine to feel how you feel. It's just about recognizing that you have control to change the situation if you want to change the situation. And what I like to do when I'm feeling lazy is go back to memento mori. So this might be my last day. So if I'm going to spend it lazy, then that's, if I need a self-care day, that's all right. But if I know I have loads of stuff to do and I'm just kind of in an unproductive rut and I can do it, I'm generally just being lazy. I just remind myself, okay, well, this might be a last day. So is this really what you want to do? You just want to be lazy and not do the work. So I think there's so many different ways it's helped me, especially with mental health. So hopefully when people dive into this philosophy a little bit more, they can see the true value in it. There's a quote here, just to briefly end on that bit. It says, "Very little is needed to make a happy life," by Marcus Aurelius. And I like to remember that because, like, there's a lot of outside externals that can make you unhappy, whether it's because you're trying to get a good job or whatever it may be. And just going back to that thought, very little's needed, virtue and just being a good person. So I don't know, I hope that answers some of the questions.
I mean, as you know from my show, I use examples really of some of my friends that and people I know that in fact I had two aunts, for example, that they lived in a prefab in Hull. They never had any money at all. One was a nurse and the other one was a carer, and they lived together and various things, and they were happy every single moment of every day.
That's
because they actually felt fulfilled in helping other people, which they'd done all of their lives, and that attracted other people to them. So some people used to come around and do their little garden outside of prefab when they got very old and things like that. But it was just a joy to be with them because they actually found it. And I think you mentioned Aristotle earlier. And I think the big difference between psychology and philosophy to me, and you've summed it up brilliantly, is Aristotle said happiness is an activity.
It's a habit, habitual.
Yeah. Absolutely. It's not a thought. It's not overthinking things and various things. It's actually, being useful, being virtuous in terms of virtue. That's why I said I love the justice one, if you like, because that's probably why I am a campaigner, really, because I actually believe so strongly in that is the best life I can do for myself is actually doing something in that justice area kind of thing. And we've all got to choose that, but it's an activity. So when you're feeling down, get into something. So for me, it's the more lethargic I feel, the more I force myself to go out for a long run, for example. And that becomes a routine kind of thing, and everybody's got to find their own way. But it's an activity. It's like your morning routine is more likely to make sure that you don't have that many really
definitely,
because you've started off the day with some activities, if you like, to for you. Yeah, it's great.
Well, if you start the day right, you've started, it doesn't matter how the rest of the day goes. It might go terribly, but at least it started right.
Yeah,
So that's a good thing.
Yeah, fabulous. Okay, my last question would be, one of the great things that I've learned from you, because you're brilliant at finding these books and the coins and all the various things, is you've made philosophy very accessible, and I've really enjoyed our chats as a result of that. And what I do think now is that it isn't a dry subject, because there is so much fantastic material and people can see on YouTube and various things about philosophy, that you don't need to pour through big textbooks like, Heidegger and Husserl and all that. I still have nightmares about all of that. Hegel, all of that stuff.
Yeah.
So people don't need to think about it as an academic subject at all, and you don't present it like that. So what would be your advice to people who are thinking, yeah, these two may have something in this philosophy? What would you say is a way of actually, some names of some people that talk about Stoicism that can actually help you with your daily routines and various things like that?
Sure. So the starting place for me, I would say the Daily Stoic. So the Daily Stoic has been amazing for finding philosophy for me. They've got a YouTube channel that is filled with content all about these principles that I'm talking about, and how Stoicism can help with stress, you name it, whatever it is. They've got a video on it. But this, you don't have to get this one. Unfortunately, I don't have the I've got a cheaper one, but this was a really expensive, lovely one, but I've given the cheaper one away. But you can get a book, the Daily Stoic, page a day, for it might be 10 quid or something. Get that, and then also get the journal that goes alongside it, and just start each day. It doesn't have to be in the morning, but I'd suggest doing it in the morning by opening it and reading it, and then delving into the Daily Stoic's content. Ryan Holiday is the founder of the Daily Stoic, and he's written books like The Obstacle is the Way, which talks about how you can turn obstacles into opportunities and sort of reframe your mind around failure and just setbacks in general. And then I would highly recommend, if you're not a reader, get Audible. Audible's a fantastic platform. But read the meditations. If I had to pick one book that's really resonated with me, it's the meditations. It's phenomenal. If you want to delve into Seneca, get Seneca's Letters to Lucilius. They're on Audible, also in paperback, but I listened to Audible first. They're wonderful. Epictetus, you can get, I think it's up, I've got an Oxford Classics where it's got the discourses, Enchiridion, and all of the other ones for reading. If you're a reader, then do that. But if not, just start with the Daily Stoic. If you want to do events, there's Modern Stoicism, which more online events, I think, but that's a really good platform. The Aurelius Foundation, I've been going down to London to do loads of events and meeting people and stuff like that. And they are just creating such a fantastic community around Stoicism. The last event that I was at was Stoics in Business, and it was all about how you can apply Stoicism to a business context. The next one's, I think, about Stoicism in the prison system. So it's taking Stoicism and applying it to loads of different areas of life. So there's loads of events out there, but just Google, start with the Daily Stoic, check out the Aurelius Foundation. Obviously, I've done some interviews on it, so search the Savvy Stoic, and there's just so many amazing content creators out there. But the meditations, start with that. I want to show you one thing before we end. I bought, it was an impulse, amazing spy, but this is a copy of the Meditations from 1714. It's in French, so unfortunately, I can't read it, but I saw it and I was I don't care, I want it. It was around before the French Revolution. So
you'll learn French now. It's perfect.
It totally is. But just search online. But the Daily Stoic is an amazing place to start, I'd say, for just delving into content.
Fabulous. And is there a name of a speaker on Stoicism that you like, that's really practical, that appears on YouTube regularly? I've got a few, but you have you got anybody that you can say, well, just put that person's name into Google, and you'll find they're nearly as good as Katie Stidolph in explaining Stoicism.
So Ryan Holiday, who I mentioned, I'd say he's probably the most prevalent out there on Stoicism. Donald Robertson is amazing. How to Think Like a Roman Emperor was a book that I listened to, and then that inspired us to listen to and read the meditations. So he's also a psychologist, so if you want kind of that point of view and CBT and stuff like that, definitely check him out. I'd say that's like really the two main people.
That's great. Absolutely. Well, I hope you've enjoyed it. I've really enjoyed it. Talk about these things forever, but we can't do that because we've got the rest of the shows to do. But thank you for joining us on our 8th annual and final Microbiz Matters Day, Katie.
Thank you for inviting us on. It's been amazing, and I really, really hope people get something from it. And if anyone wants to get in touch with us, drop us an email. I can talk about this philosophy all day, so I'm more than happy to do so. But thanks so much. It's been wonderful.